Welcome to Professor Russell Esposito's channel on information security. This video is just one of many video modules that are part of Professor Esposito's course on the subject. Video modules for his entire information security course are located on this channel. So remember to hit the like button as well as subscribe if you enjoy the video. Thank you for watching.
IT Forensics. At the end of Module 11 on Planning and Incident Management and BCRP, this particular slide was also included as a lead into this lesson. So I won't read these items to you again because they were explained on the last slide of Module 11. But this slide here is a good sort of reminder of at a high level, the steps that have to occur during a forensic audit when a crime may have occurred or there's some suspicion of a crime. This slide goes into a bit more detail on the order of volatility. So digital information is volatile depending on if it's in memory or if it's stored on an SSD, a solid state drive, or a USB stick. So the concept here is to not shut any machines off. Machines should never be shut off if there's a suspected crime. But the memory, the information, the data should be captured in this sequence. So CPU information, anything that was cached, RAM, temporary files or swap files, registers, collect these first. Do not shut the machines off. All this data will be lost. This is volatile data. And then similarly, any routing tables, ARP cache, we've talked about ARP attacks, local DNS. So there are sometimes local DNS, domain name servers, that provide a lookup for internally into the company, not externally on the internet. Like when you type in Bank of New York, the DNS looks up the IP address and finds it, and that's usually the ISP doing that. But there's also usually a local DNS for the machines that are local to the intranet, the internal network within the company, and that cache needs to be examined. Any other processing tables, kernel statistics, that's all volatile information. Capture that first. The next is document any live network connections and data flows to what systems. Remote logins need to be recorded, system access activity, what was accessed. Then collect data on the hard drive, SSD or USB, because that's not volatile. And the last thing you'd want to collect is any archival media or backups, because the backups could contain some clues. There could have been a backup that grabbed some earlier information about the beginning of a crime or the beginning of an attack, whether it's a remote attack or a local crime scene. You want to look at the backups as well, because sometimes they offer clues and have information that you might not have picked up, with the active systems from the active systems. So you don't want to ignore that completely. Collect other evidence. So again, don't shut machines off. Pay attention to what's on the screens. Take photos, take screenshots, document what was happening at the time of the first identification of a problem. Interview witnesses, try to determine their credibility. It's very important to understand who you talked to, who they were, how involved they actually were, where they were at what time, so that you understand if they're really, to determine their credibility, determine how accurate that testimony may be. Prepare witnesses for a critical case. Make sure they understand the concepts being discussed, or include technical experts as well. Capture video of the location inside and out. Record entrances and exits, door locks. Look for any damage. Record time offsets. Again, we talked about this earlier. The SIEM, the Security Incident Event Management Systems, can help you with that. Record different time zones so that it can be coordinated or really calculated in a way that has a uniform time and not represent different time zones that could be confusing. And take hashes, with a forensic duplicator. So you want to take a hash of the system, and we'll show in the next slide some examples of duplicators and some other devices that are used in forensics. This is an example of a duplicator. It's also a write blocker. So what happens is, as you're duplicating a system, because you don't want to do analysis on the evidence, the machines that were part of a crime or used by criminals need to be put into evidence, but you want to do a write blocker So you could make a copy with guaranteeing that you're not writing anything to the machine. So you want to write block. Usually these are hardware devices like this. Sometimes they're software devices. But you want to make sure that there's no way you can accidentally or unintentionally change any data on the machine that will become evidence. So these machines are write blockers and duplicators that work, together in a way that guarantees you can't change any information accidentally while you're copying, and everything gets stored as a copy, and the copy is what you'll do your forensic analysis on. You will not do the analysis on the items that are the original evidence, items that are evidence. Cellebrite is a company, an Israeli company, really unique products. And rather than try to explain them here, let's go through the next slide. We have a few videos as well that describe how these systems work. This is the Cellebrite mobile forensics device or tool, and it's a very unique tool, and really it allows you to copy from a phone or a laptop. Mobile devices really consume all of that data and quite easily. So there are a couple of videos here that'll show you exactly how these work. One is an introduction that shows you the item in use, the product in use. And the second video actually shows how you can crack a locked Apple phone and not get all the data, but get some of the data, even if you can't, if you don't have a password to fully unlock it, using Cellebrite along with a product called Check M8. This is Cellebrite's other device called UFID. Universal Forensic Extraction Device. It's really a cloud analyzer. So what this tool does is give the user the ability to extract all social media data and coordinate it, correlate the data, and display it graphically in a nice report rather than going on to individual websites. What the cloud analyzer does is pull all the data from whether it's YouTube comments, or Instagram or Facebook, whatever it is, and it pulls it together and puts it in a nice, pretty report all automatically. Now, of course, if this is a criminal case and you don't have the passwords, what they'll have is the investigator will have a subpoena, and of course, going through all the proper legal due process, be able to contact these organizations, Facebook, Instagram, and wherever else the social media exists, and get to the back end of these databases without having to have a password. Sometimes you might want to know that there are companies now that ask their prospective employees to provide passwords for Facebook and Instagram so they can look at what your comments are, what you're posting. So just be aware of that. Clean up your files. Don't put anything on those websites, any social media site that could embarrass you in the future. You don't have to provide a password to an employer, but that might be a requirement for an interview, for any prospective employee at a company. So the second video here is using Google's Takeout. You may not be aware of Takeout. Google's Takeout is a product that allows you to download all of your Google data, regardless of where it is, on a Google Drive, YouTube, all of your data, and download it for your own safekeeping or purpose, some other purpose. So this product, the UFID Cloud Analyzer, is working with Google Takeout to pull all of this person's data out of any Google product. And as usual, the links are available on Blackboard. If you can't access them there, look in the syllabus or in the schedule, and you'll get to these links as well. Lockheed Martin, the military contractor, developed a concept called cyber kill chain, and it's based on military concepts. So when you're under attack, your opponent, your enemy, is looking to take certain steps before they attack you. So in the military, what they're looking for are these steps to figure out how to break that chain to stop an attack. So Lockheed Martin took that military concept and applied it to information security. Now, ordinarily, this kill chain is used as a way to build to have a process that allows you to build a better defense against attacks. And it's also useful during an attack, right? But it's also similarly useful after the fact in forensics as a framework that supports the review of how an attack occurred, which is why I have it in the forensics section. But you could easily put this in the operations section as well, in an operations lesson, because this would be a technique used in operations to stop an attack, identify an attack, and try to stop an attack and improve your actual framework, your security framework, eventually as a lesson learned. So I have a couple of videos here. One is an introductory video to this Lockheed Martin kill chain, and the other is a little bit more detailed, but I hope you enjoy them. I think it's an interesting concept, and again, it could be used, for identifying an attack and stopping the kill chain during an attack, and also for an after the fact, post-mortem after an attack, to figure out, what happened. How did this attack happen? What were the steps that might have taken place? And let's look for our areas of vulnerability that we can repair so this doesn't happen again. Let's discuss the cyber kill chain action matrix. So these are the things you can do to sort of prevent or stop or interrupt in some way one of the steps in the kill chain, one of the steps in the chain of attack, and you want to kill that chain. So the left-hand side column going up and down goes from reconnaissance, weaponization, etc. C2 means command and control. At that point, they have command and control that step of your organization system or some systems. And then their objectives. If they get that far and they're achieving their objectives, the hacker's achieving his or her objectives, and they're actually stealing your technology, your military secrets, your pharma, your big pharma, whatever it is, the customer lists, what can you do at that point? Of course, the top in the black row, you see detect, deny, disrupt, degrade, deceive, different things you can do to mitigate or stop, these steps in the kill chain. So let's look at reconnaissance. As the hacker goes to the reconnaissance, web analytics may detect that. So you can detect what's happening and try to prevent it. Deny, that's the next one. A policy to prevent form use. Don't allow or educate your staff not to put information that's specific about the company on any forums, or any social media sites. There are also some things you could do perhaps with firewalls to stop reconnaissance. Certainly when there's a port scan, that's intrusive. Like if you're using Nmap or ZenMap, if a hacker's using that to scan ports, that's noticeable. You should be able to stop that. On the right-hand side, there's a deceive area. The first row under the word deceive, create fake postings. You can put fake postings in media, social media sites. A little controversial perhaps, but it's a way to deceive your opponent. Weaponization step. You can use a network identification system to detect, or a network intrusion prevention system to deny. At that step, when the hacker goes to deliver, again, you could use an NIDS, a network intrusion detection system. Also, user education, right? Because you don't want people falling for phishing attacks and falling for a phishing email and clicking on something that's dangerous. You could also deny it with the email scanning, email antivirus. AV is antivirus scanning. Across that row further on delivery, there's email queuing. You could possibly take certain emails and put them in certain folders, or put them in a spam folder for review. And deceive, you can filter but respond with out of office messages. So if this could be controversial, but certain emails coming in, you could just say this person's out of office. If you really want to lock down somebody's email address, that they've been under attack relentlessly, and you want to stop emails from the outside world with some kind of message like this, and educate the rest of the company that this is a bogus out of office message. That would have to be used very surgically for very specific reasons. You could create a lot of confusion with that. Exploitation. You get to that step, you can use a host intrusion detection system. You can patch some application problem perhaps, and you can use DEP, which we didn't talk about earlier in this class, but it's worth mentioning. DEP is a Windows setting really, and it means data execution prevention. It's a Windows setting that locks down specific system memory locations that are reserved for Windows processes only. And if a malware attempts to use this Windows memory, this memory allocated for Windows only, there's an alert that will be sent that some unauthorized program is attempting to use this memory space. So that's a really good tool to disrupt and block exploitation. Installation, again an HIDS, again antivirus. Command and control, similarly network intrusion detection system. An HTTP whitelist perhaps might stop that. Again, a network intrusion prevention system might disrupt it. And tar pitting, also called HTTP throttling. So if you know you're under attack and you know that someone's consuming your data and exporting your data, you can try to tar pit it, slow it down. And that's what HTTP throttling means. Slow down that that exfiltration of your data, right? So that at that point they already have command and control at the C2 list, but you could slow it down and frustrate them and make it difficult for them to pull any more data off of your organization systems. Then when they reach their objectives, it's a little late, but it's a little late in the game, but you can still try to break this last step in the chain. There's proxy detection techniques to figure out, who is hiding behind what IP address, to understand if somebody is using a proxy and they're hiding their identity, to try to figure out what the actual source is, to stop the source from doing any other theft of your organization's data. Firewall access control lists can possibly help. A firewall ACL. Next one is NIPS, Network Intrusion Prevention System. And again, HTTP throttling. If all else fails, maybe slow down the exfiltration of your data, the exporting of your data. Slow it down. Tar pit it is another term that's used sometimes to frustrate the hacker's success at that point. And then there's a honeypot to try to distract them, get the hacker away from your true data and onto some other data that may not be maybe in some ways inaccurate, in some ways hard, or you're eliminating the most key, important, salient elements of your true invention or patents. So to sort of steer them into some other data that's not complete, it's either not complete or not accurate. So they're now consuming data from your organization that is not as useful as the actual true patented technology. So that's a review of Action Matrix. It's really good for planning, I think. It's good for an attack as well. And it's also a way to review, after the fact, when there's forensics, to look at what you could have done. Well, maybe you had some of these technologies and processes or techniques in use, but they failed for some reason. So it's a good tool to also use to review post-mortem, as they say, or after an attack. And this concludes the forensics lesson. Be careful out there, folks.